I have been rewatching some episodes of Star Trek Discovery, the first two seasons in particular. Yeah, I know I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm a sadomasochist. Why would I expose myself to this again? But there's just certain things that stood out and that I wanted to comment on, and one of them was this here, Section 31 headquarters, a abandoned penal colony, a penal facility, a prison asteroid that had been abandoned approximately 100 years prior to the events of the first season, or the second season rather, of Star Trek Discovery. So pretty much during the days of Archer and Star Trek Enterprise, this thing had been abandoned. And in season 2, episode 9 of Discovery, the Project Daedalus episode, it features this facility, and let's talk about it. Particularly the idea that it was surrounded by and protected by a minefield. Now, never mind the brief interaction that Admiral Cornwell had with Captain Pike about how the Federation supposedly isn't using mines and it's not something we do and that's just not our way, rah, 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 which is, of course, utterly ridiculous. And, Admiral Cornwell saying, well, we didn't put the mines there, we didn't make the mines, blah, blah, blah. And Pike saying, well, that's a distinction without a difference, so it doesn't really matter who put them there, who made them, you're using them, you're taking advantage of it. But what I want to focus on is the dialogue in this episode about these mines. Now, first of all, obviously, if you've seen Deep Space Nine, you know that the Federation really doesn't have a problem with mines. They mined the opening to the Bajoran wormhole, which it's a relatively easy thing to do because it has a discrete, discernible entry point. It's it's a hole in space time, and it's kind of two-dimensional, even though it's in three-dimensional space, obviously. So there is a distinct opening, and you can put just a field, a sheet of mines in front of it to keep things from going in and out the end of this hole. Think of like the end of a giant cylinder or a hose or a tube. There is a distinctive end to it, and you can put mines there to block things from going in and out. Or think like in Stargate SG-1, the iris on the Stargate. It was at the event horizon. It was at one end of this wormhole, okay? But in Deep Space Nine, they were cloaked mines and they were self-replicating. So if one was destroyed, the mines adjacent to it, they would make more mines, and they're cloaked, so you don't know where they are, and it would be hard to locate them, to disarm them, to destroy them, that sort of thing. Now, with this minefield that they had around Section 31 headquarters, it is a spherical array of mines because they have to defend from enemy ships approaching it from any conceivable direction. So there's an infinite number of ways basically that the enemy at this point, the Klingons, could have approached it. Now, Admiral Cornwell specifically mentioned that the shields would attract the mines. So when she gave Detmer the course to get through the minefield and to get to Section 31 headquarters, she was like, okay, Captain Pike, you have to drop your shields. You can't have your shields up when you go through this minefield because they'll be attracted to the shields. All right, so that's the two big points here, that they are, well, three rather. They're in a spherical 360-degree array. They are visible, and they are attracted to shields. So first of all, they're visible. If you can get within visual range, sensor range to detect these things, it's not a leap of faith to think that Klingon vessels, if they even knew where Section 31 headquarters was, because even Starfleet captains did not know where it was, so they'd have to, capture admirals who happen to know about Section 31, who happen to know where the headquarters was, and torture the information or extract it out of them somehow. But it's very unlikely they're going to find this place to begin with. But if they did, they can see the mines. And so if they can get within visual range, they can get within weapons range and just shoot them, just destroy the minefield. You wouldn't need a large number of Klingon vessels to do that. And then, Section 31 headquarters, the actual facility, would be, a proverbial sitting duck. Now, let's say that they didn't want to just destroy the mines outright, which, again, they're visible, you can see them. They're attracted to shields. And they said that the reason that they had this minefield to begin with was because they were under threat of an enemy that had cloaking technology. Remember, though, when the ships are cloaked, they don't have their shields up and they don't have their weapons available. So the minefield would have done no good whatsoever against the Klingons. Just one of these little things that just jumps out at me. And, it's something that probably when the writers came up with it, it probably sounded really good, but I don't think they really took a moment, took a breath, and stopped to think about things. And this is one of those things where, again, I point out that Star Wars, Star Trek, they don't have anybody that's like the equivalent of what Star Wars has with guys like Sam Witwer, who would, be in the production meeting and say, hey, actually, wait a minute, maybe we want to do this again or re-examine what you're trying to do here. I'm just saying. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing from Season 2, Episode 9 of Star Trek Discovery, the Project Daedalus episode. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with my thinking on this, that the minefield would have been utterly inconsequential and ineffective had the Klingons or any other enemy been able to locate Section 31 headquarters, or do you think that it would have been effective in some way? And, let's not even talk about those buzzsaw mines that were just cutting through the hull like a hot knife through butter. There's, what is it? Vibranium? Is it Wakanda Forever in space? Adamantium? What are these things using? I don't know. But, it made for thrilling television the first time you're watching it, and your suspension of disbelief is in full effect. So that's my thoughts. What do you think? Drop a comment, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas on this. Thanks for watching.